Aileen Wuornos' story is one of the most tragic in modern crime history. Born into a world that seemed to reject her, Wuornos' journey from a troubled child to a notorious serial killer is both heartbreaking and complex. Her actions shocked the nation and brought forth intense debates about mental health, abuse, and the justice system's handling of women in distress. Understanding her story requires us to look beyond her crimes and see the human being behind the headlines. Aileen Wuornos was born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan. Her life began with instability. Her father, a convicted child molester, was incarcerated when she was born. Her mother abandoned her and her brother when Wuornos was just 4 years old. They were left in the care of their grandparents, who were reportedly abusive. This early abandonment and abuse set the stage for a life filled with pain. By the age of 11, she was engaging in sexual activities in exchange for food, drugs, and cigarettes. At 14, Wuornos became pregnant, allegedly the result of rape by a friend of her grandfather. She was sent to a home for unwed mothers and gave birth to a baby boy, who was quickly put up for adoption. After returning home, her grandfather threw her out of the house. She was forced to live in the woods near her home, struggling to survive. These early experiences are crucial to understanding the depth of her later desperation and violence. As Wuornos entered adulthood, her life did not become any easier. She turned to sex work as a means of survival. Living on the fringes of society, she hitchhiked across the country, relying on the money she earned from prostitution. This lifestyle was fraught with danger and further alienated her from mainstream society. Between 1989 and 1990, she killed 7 men in Florida. She claimed that the men had either raped or attempted to rape her while she was working as a prostitute. Her method was consistent. She would shoot the men at close range, often with their own weapons. Wuornos' actions drew national attention, and she quickly became one of America's most infamous female serial killers. The media painted her as a cold-blooded killer, but Wuornos insisted that she was a victim fighting back against years of abuse and violence. Understanding this transition requires empathy and a willingness to see beyond the surface of her crimes. The legal proceedings against Aileen Wuornos were highly publicized. Her arrest in January 1991 marked the beginning of a media frenzy. Dubbed the Damsel of Death by some outlets, her case attracted widespread attention due to the rarity of female serial killers. During her trial, Wuornos' defense argued that she had acted in self-defense. They highlighted her history of abuse and the violent encounters she had with her victims. Despite these arguments, the prosecution portrayed her as a manipulative and ruthless killer. The jury found her guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to death in January 1992. The media's portrayal of Wuornos was often sensationalized. Her story became a symbol of the extremes of human behavior and the complexities of justice. Aileen Wuornos' story raises significant questions about mental health and the justice system. Diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder, her mental state was a critical aspect of her behavior. The abuse Wuornos endured throughout her life also played a crucial role in her actions. Her claims of self-defense were rooted in her long history of victimization. The treatment of Wuornos by the justice system reflects broader issues with how we handle cases involving severe trauma and mental illness. Her execution in 2002, despite her evident psychological distress, raises ethical questions about the use of the death penalty. Wuornos' case underscores the need for a more compassionate and nuanced approach to justice. On October 9, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection in Florida. Her final days were marked by a sense of resignation. She declined her last meal, opting for a single cup of coffee instead. Her execution brought an end to a life filled with pain and violence, but it also left many questions unanswered. Wuornos' death did not bring closure to the debates surrounding her life and actions. Instead, it amplified discussions about the death penalty and the treatment of mentally ill individuals within the justice system. Her case remains a poignant example of the intersection between trauma, mental illness, and criminal behavior. The broader implications of Wuornos' story extend beyond the confines of her life. Her case highlights systemic failures in addressing abuse and mental health issues. Wuornos' life and death serve as a stark reminder of the consequences of neglect and the importance of compassion in our justice system.